Okie dokie. Let's get started. Good day, everybody. Good morning, evening, middle of the night. I'm sorry that's the middle of the night for you if that's the case, but I'm very happy to see everybody here. My name is Ignacio Vasquez. I am SDM's Graduate Certificate Director, and I also have a function at SDM as a research scientist. I'm very happy to have everybody here. This is the first time in a very long time that we actually have a dedicated session for the graduate certificate. So expect the session to be a little bit, we're working it out, but I am very happy to be here with you and answer all your questions. I will go through a series of slides to present and introduce some of the idea about what the certificate is. We will have a group of 3 students currently at the program to answer some of the questions. I have a couple of colleagues also. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, and we are going to try to keep up. We have become very good at doing so. So let's get started. Should be able to see my screen right now with the intro. Is that correct? Excellent. Thank you. Very well. So the SDM graduate certificate. So the first thing is SDM stands for System Design and Management. We are a graduate program inside of MIT that started in 1997 about. So we have been going on for a very long time. SDM is a program that is placed at the intersection of the School of Engineering and the School of Management. So we work equally with both of them. We are a program that was initiated by a group of organizations that came to MIT asking for how do we educate, train, and continue growing our senior technical leadership. So all of our programs are intended for people who have multiple years of experience, and then they are continuing their growth inside of their organization, or they are switching to more leadership or technical leadership kind of responsibilities. What we do is we try to develop systems level expertise, expand your skills in managing large, complex systems, and essentially educate our students as future engineering leaders. Specifically about the certificate program, we work very hard on making it something that's career compatible, meaning people do not need to stop working for the entire duration of the program. And I will get to that a little bit later. So one of our funding directors, Professor Magnanti, actually, he coined this very interesting phrase that we really like. This is a program for those who want to lead engineering, not leave. And we really abide by this. One of the typical questions that we get is, okay, so is this an MBA for engineers? It is not. While we do keep a very strong presence with the School of Business and interaction with business students, this is not a technical MBA. This is something that is meant to educate people who are going to be in charge of engineering, design, product development, and research organizations with a very strong technical focus. Let me tell you a little bit about the current cohort. The graduate certificate cohort is about 30 to 40 students every year. It fluctuates a little bit. This year, the average age for the certificate cohort is 35 years old. About 20% of them are women, or 18. And one of the interesting parts is that we look for a composition of that cohort that represents different industries, different companies, and people with different levels of technical expertise. While, yes, on average, we have about a 35-year-old cohort. This is a range, indeed, that goes anywhere from 30 to 60 in some cases. So we are also looking for that spread in levels of experience. The organizations that I have in here, some of them are providing a full sponsorship for their employees to come to SDM, but this is not a requirement. While we do ask students to participate while continuing with their full-time employment, it is not a requirement that the organization makes a full sponsorship for us to consider them as candidates. What else can I tell you about the certificate cohort? So in general, the certificate cohort is a little bit more experienced than our master's students. We, as I mentioned already, we are aspiring to bring people with many different experiences in terms of their industry, their education. And all of it really comes together because we have a very strong focus on teamwork during the academic year. Specifically for the graduate certificate, about 80% of the students who are admitted have some level of sponsorship from their employers. About half of them already have a graduate degree that can be anywhere from a master's to a PhD. And a small fraction of them are people in the Boston and Cambridge extended area. It is not a requirement in any way. This is just how the numbers have really looked for us during the last several years. All right. So one more thing that I want to make is like this distinction between the master's and the certificate, something that we are really thinking, okay, we need a dedicated session to actually walk people through this. One of the things that I want to mention is while they are separate programs, most of the time they are taking the same class. So graduate master's students and certificate students, they are very, very similar in terms of their academic competence and the industry and the experience they are bringing. They are taking a single class together, mixed, and we call that class the SDM core. The core covers systems architecture, systems engineering, and project management. And for those 9 months, that's how long the class is, we design a sequence of somewhere around 9 different teams that are always going to be a mix of master's students, certificate students, people from different industries, people with different levels of experience. To a certain extent, if we do our job right, the first teams, you are not going to have anything in common with anybody else. There is not going to be anybody else from your same career, your major, the same experience from your company, someone, and that's on purpose, because we want to force people to be able to have a high-level technical conversation without relying on their disciplinary expertise. Now, that's how the programs are very similar to each other. Now, how are they different? One of the key differences is that certificate students, they, instead of doing a thesis, they do a capstone project. And I will say a little bit more about that later, but right now the important part about the capstone is that this is a project that happens in the context of the certificate students' employers. So if there is a clear return of investment for the employers, that would be the final deliverable of the capstone. Because while we have this project under professional researchers' supervision from MIT, it is a project that happens with proprietary information potentially, and that may have a direct contribution to the organization at large, regardless of that student being sponsored or not. So that's a conversation that we have in preparation for the capstone, which happens during the last 10 weeks of the program. And I will say a little bit more about that later. Now, let me take to step out of this a little bit because I have actually a very nice video. Can you see this. Let me see. Thumbs up if you can hear it.
Today, being an engineer is very exciting. We're going through an energy transition. We have new computation, new classes of automation and robotics. Hardware and software are back. At the same time, what's happening in medicine, precision agriculture, carbon reduction. All these transitions are happening, which means that there's so many new combinations, new opportunities that rising engineers can address. SDM is a program in the graduate schools of engineering and the Sloan School of Management at MIT. It offers both a master's degree in engineering and management, as well as a certificate in the same. Our students are at mid-career. We have students from agriculture, from energy, biotech, health, aerospace, from automotive, from governments and military in one classroom. If we looked at curriculum a century ago, each of the separate disciplines was establishing their own first laws and their own disciplinary principles. Today, the engineering problems we're working on are connected. That is, we can't separate the subsystem we're working on from the system it connects to. And that connected system lives in an ecosystem that includes other systems. So the engineering leader now not only must help coordinate and make trades amongst the engineering disciplines, but we must be capable of also interacting, having dialogue, having conversations with stakeholders, economists, regulators, lawyers, sociologists, ethnographers. So that becomes a central part of what an engineering leader for complex systems problems must deal with. But let's start with the core, because the core is really unique. We teach this class over 9 months. With every few weeks, we spiral through system architecture, engineering, and project management. These are 3 capabilities that an engineering leader, especially for complex modern projects, has to have. Students are involved in hundreds of hours of activity, including 300 hours of team-based projects. We invite outside organizations, both companies and governments, to propose a problem. The students begin by simply trying to frame the problem. They then take that and understand it and decompose that system and understand how it might perform and function with different options and different approaches. And then they also think about what it means to then take this proposed system into the real world. The significant peer learning. Then there's also now a new vocabulary, a new way of seeing the world as systems, and a whole toolkit of methods that people learn. After the core, there are foundation classes tied to systems, both in engineering and in management. It's also now important, heading towards a thesis, to explore. While at MIT, it's such an amazing place. It's like being a kid in a candy store. There's so many interesting classes, interesting activities. And so the electives give one a chance to shape one's own degree. And thesis is an important ultimate expression of the journey they've been on as a student, advised by a faculty member or a professional researcher. And typically it's a one-on-one dialogue over at least 6 months. What's always amazing to me is to see how a student evolves leading up to the topic in their thesis, which could be groundbreaking, maybe something they could never have anticipated when they entered. And an important part of the experience in being here at MIT is permitting that discovery, being open-minded, being diligent, interacting a ton, then allowing for the discovery and the shaping, whether it's a new technique, a new method, a new company that might emerge from the time here.
All right. Okie dokie. So let me tell you a little bit more about what is the core. The core is, as I mentioned, this mandatory course that every student from SDM...
Away from my screen and give a brief introduction. We just, sorry,
Oh, hold on.
I'm-
There is, okay, yeah, I heard a voice in the background. There we go. All right. So what is the core? The core is this mandatory course that everybody in SDM takes, both certificate and master students. The core covers, as I mentioned, systems architecture, systems engineering, and project management. We do this in an iteration basis. So effectively every about 4 weeks, we move from one block to the other and everything is integrated per semester. So during the first semester, all the concepts are introduced. During the second semester, people do a spring project and they go through a similar syllabus compared to the first one, but more in depth and now applied in collaboration with a partner organization that we will bring to the students. If anybody in here is interested about professional certifications, things like PMP or INCOSE Certified Systems Engineering Professional, the content of the core actually can be used as an academic equivalent for some of those certifications. So it is not something that exists only inside of the university. Some of our students actually decide to use this as a bridge towards professional certification. Now, the capstone project is one of the things that makes a certificate distinctive. The capstones essentially move a project idea, a cocktail napkin idea, if you wish, onto a multi-concept evaluation project. So this maturation of a project proposal is what the capstone is about. It takes about 10 weeks during the summer, and it does not have a prescriptive systems architecture, systems engineering, and project management content. Rather, we take an idea from the student's employer and use all the tools and methods that people have learned, depending on what is it that the project needs. This happens in the context of a team that can be anywhere from 1 to 4 people. And that depends a little bit on whether the organization has multiple applicants or there is only one person from the one organization, and that's perfectly fine. We will work together with the student and their employer to find something that is valuable, interesting, and that shows potential to actually become a great learning experience for the student. Let me tell you a little bit more about the different modes in which the certificate can be followed. Most of the students following the certificate do it at a distance. People are required to come to Cambridge 3 times in the course of the certificate. 1 week at the end of August, 1 week in early January, and for 3 days mid-May. That's it. Those events are to bring together the entire cohort of first-year SDM students and then go through different academic and co-curricular activities so that it is not only a matter of learning, it is also a matter of networking and of forming a sense of belonging with the rest of the student cohort. The certificate is followed in a remote, yes, but synchronous manner as well. I'm not sure if you saw in the video that there is a very big screen full of people joining a Zoom call. That's actually one of the core classes. People are taking the class at the same time. They are able to interact with the professors. They are able to participate and get their questions answered live. And that's an important distinction for the certificate as well. If the certificate students happen to be visiting Boston, we welcome that them join the lecture in person, or if they live in the Boston extended area and they want to attend the session in person, that's also perfectly fine. All right, so this is an example on the current timeline for the certificate students. And what I want to, I'm not really going into too much detail in here, but what I want to highlight in here are the in-person events, which is 1 week at the end of August, another week in January, and a few days mid-August. The important part in here is the duration of the entire certificate really takes about 1 natural year. It's something of like 51 weeks. So when I am done with the graduation of the certificate students on a Friday, I go home on a weekend and I come back on Monday to welcome the new set of students for the next academic year. So it's a year-long cycle. All right, so the final event of the certificate is a set of final presentations for the capstone. Those presentations, we designed them to be hybrid. It is a day-long event, and if people want to join us in Cambridge, that would be wonderful. It is not a requirement that they are in person, but if they are in person, we are going to have a dedicated room for it. We are going to have time and availability for their families or their partners to join their final presentation, and then we are going to go party at the end. But for those who cannot join because of work limitations, or perhaps it's too long a travel for a single day event, they can join online, and that's perfectly fine. Now, I have been saying a lot about the class that people take and what they are learning, but this is not the only thing that we allow our certificate students to do. There are a number of co-curricular activities that, based on the feedback that we get, are also interesting for certificate students, particularly the visits that we do to other organizations. So every month, roughly, SDM organizes a visit to a company in the Boston extended area that has something to do with what people are learning in class. In the past, this has been things like Amazon Robotics, Boston Dynamics, IBM, Shell, a number of them. Now, this happens in the Boston area, and certificate students are free to join and register for those as well. But if they are far away, and this is only one afternoon on a Friday, they actually might save that opportunity for one of our flagship treks. These are 1 week. It's a 1 week that we dedicate to visit about 10 different organizations in a certain geographic area. We have one trek to San Francisco once a year, one trek to Japan once a year, and another one to Europe once a year. And those three are innovation ecosystems that are very different from each other. And we cater the visits and that we are organizing for those areas so that they are complementary to what people are learning in the course. Sometimes it's contradictory, and that's fine, because what we want people to see are how different industries, how different regions, how different cultures interpret the things that we are learning in the classroom. Another co-curricular opportunity for graduate certificate students is the Student Leadership Committee. This is a group of students, first and second year, that organize a number of activities that don't have anything to do with academics on behalf of the students. And the reason why we want certificate students to have an opportunity to demonstrate their leadership in here is so that there are also activities that happen for people who are remote, because the vast majority of certificate students are not based in Boston. All right, so you're very lucky because this is the time that I get to shut up. So you don't have to hear it from me. I would like to welcome here 3 of our current students, and I am putting a little bit of information about them because they have different profiles that I believe are very nice and representative of everything that I have been talking about. So Pablo, Jay, Saraf, thank you for being here. I don't see any questions in the chat, so let me just ask you, can you very briefly tell us a little bit about who you are and what brought you to the certificate program? Let's start with Pablo.
Thank you, Ignacio. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. Well, I'm Pablo Favila. I currently work at BP. I'm based in Mexico City. And as you can see on the screen, I'm a remote student. But with these activities that Ignacio just mentioned, I think you can really feel the student's life again, because it's been a while since I last studied. So yeah, it's very different. It's a different world after pandemic. So feeling connected, having this sense of community, it's awesome. I'm very honored and amazed by the type of cohort that I'm with. So it's been an incredible journey so far. My recommendation, if I may, it's that you really need to dedicate some time for this. Like, even if it's master's or certificate, it doesn't matter. It really requires a commitment of time and effort from you, from your employees. You as a person, you're a system, so you need like many different areas, and all of them have to be aware that you really need to commit some time and effort on this. So it's going to be life-changing. It's been amazing, and I'm open for any type of questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo. Jay, can we go to you?
Yep. Hi. Nice to meet you, everybody. My name is Jay. I'm currently head of engineering at Ikigai, MIT incubated startup. My background is in software engineering and a little bit of statistics and machine learning, that type of stuff. And I wanted to learn a little more about the engineering leadership, as Ignacio said, people who wants to lead engineering, not leave engineering. That was exactly what got me into a certificate program. And 1 year of the core courses with amazing cohorts that got me into interest in furthering my education in this field. So I started my work to transition to a master's degree, and I'm currently taking more systematic, system-related classes like system safety, and I'm really loving it here. As Pablo said, there's going to be a lot of work. It actually transitioned my viewpoint on how I see engineering workload. Coming from startup, I thought they were a little small toy project, but then now I see the bigger picture, which I enjoy the most out of this program. Yeah, so if you have a question about Cert to Master, transition experiences, types of things, I'm happy to help. Happy to answer any questions as well. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you, Jay. Saraf.
Hello, everyone. I'm Saurav. I'm a part of John Deere India. So currently working out of India. Currently working out of India. I'm a part of John Deere, been with Deere for around 5 years now. I'm working as a lead engineer for systems engineering, especially focusing towards the production systems. So within Deere, what we have is we have a training pyramid that we call, and then we have to transition through multiple layers to kind of get nominated for this course. So this is one of the kind of most prestigious course we offer within Deere, and I am selected for it, and it very much aligns with the jobs that we do. So around a couple of years back, when John Deere moved its focus from machines to what we call it production systems, looking into job operations, operational analysis, and so on. So that's where we realized that we have to have more people who have the knowledge of the systems thinking. So since then, we are people who are getting nominated for this program come over here, especially focusing towards systems engineering, but it's a combination of all three of it. So as you might know about the 3 courses that we have in core: systems engineering, system architecture, and program management. So all 3 of them are very well equipped with the knowledge that we need to have that technical leadership within the roles that we do. Yeah, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.
All righty. So I'm going to start picking up some questions from the chat, but let me address one thing first before we go to the panel. Is it possible to, what was it? Anyway, so you do not need a sponsorship from your employer. If you are someone who is in a position that you are willing to make the investment on the certificate on your own, that's perfectly fine. Do keep in mind that the certificate program is not a degree program. Therefore, it does not provide a student visa for people to come to the US. So that's something just to keep in mind. And about the capstone projects, so if you are the one person from your organization, I would work together with you to find an appropriate project with your employer or some other organization that gives you access to that information. So that's something that we resolve on a case-by-case basis. So one question for the panel. So how is the workload week to week? How do you balance that with your presumably more than full-time jobs?
So for me, I'll start. For me, everything fits right into place. There are some days where you have to work for more time. So for example, if you have the assignments deadline that's coming, so you have to stretch a bit more. Then you have to have that relationship. So especially for me, what I have is it's a well-known program within Deere. So even my manager knows about it. So you can kind of work through it. You can, because once someone understands that, okay, you have some load that's coming from that side. So that's how you can manage some of the loads, and then everything comes into place. You have weekends for it. Yeah.
In my case, I think similar to Saraf. Yeah, my employer also knows about this, so they've been very open, and every time that I think I'm like overloaded, they give me some extra time, so they've been very, very nice with me. Also, and I think it's a learning that I've had for the last weeks, is that you can do everything, but no, anything, but not everything. So you also need to start discerning, like, probably I don't need to do this pre-reading, and it's totally fine. You don't need to be like the top of the class all the time. It's fine for you to give some time to also breathe, to work on your mental health, on your physical health. Like, you need to start thinking, yeah, like there are so many things to do, but you cannot do everything at once.
Yeah, for me, yes, there was a lot of workload, but then it was actually really fun for me. So I didn't feel like I'm like doing this under the pressure. I actually got to work with amazing cohort. I actually made some best friends here, and I learned how to do things with a team. I think with that change of mindset, how to, expect some things out of your team members and things like that. It certainly got easier as the semester goes. So I wouldn't say, yes, there was a lot of workload, but I wouldn't say there was, hard in some sense. Yep.
Jay, specifically with you, how was your experience when you decided to apply to the master's program? And like you have been doing this already, I mean, being a master's student now for a couple of months. So how has that been for you?
I actually like this fact that the course that I decided to take, they still mentioned systems thinking. For example, I'm keep making an example out of system safety class. I'm really loving that class. It's actually, it feels like for me, it's not just a course there and then the other courses are there. It feels for me, it feels like a continuum of a curriculum because like, they still talk about system boundaries, they still talk about goals and requirements and types of stuff. Yeah, so I think transitioning for me, it was more natural than it was just like, hey, one, certificate and then moving on to another degree. Yeah. Did that answer the question?
Well, I'm hoping so. By the way, people, so you can continue writing your questions in the chat, but if somebody wants to just like raise your yellow, virtual, blue, whatever hand, and I'll see it, I can give you the word as well. So another question for you guys. So how has it been, this notion of like working on the certificate remotely, particularly for Pablo and Saurabh? I made up some emphasis on the fact that we're working strongly on teamwork, but how do you experience that as remote students?
Well, technology, it's very different to my early years as student. So having your face on the screen on the room with like all my peers, all my friends are there, it's very interesting. It's very interactive, so it doesn't mean that you're just a video on the screen. Like you can interact with the professor and with everybody else. You can work in huddle rooms for these Zoom sessions. So I don't feel like I'm like very distant. It doesn't really matter. And having this thing like Students Life, I'm part of a committee such as Saraf. So I also feel part like I'm engaging with the MIT community. So yeah, it's been very nice. I think they're doing a great job for making us feel closer.
I'll vibe in with Pablo. The things that I mentioned, especially towards the technology side, we actually feel like, so once you get into class and then see that life-size picture of yourself in the bigger screen, everything is very well connected. So I think pre-COVID, it might not have been possible, but now based on the technology that we have, so there is nothing like I feel left out in the class as well. So there are a lot of features like professor also takes up the questions from the remote students to make us feel more included. And then we can also be part of so many different activities that's going on in campus virtually. And I am also part of SLC Student Leadership Council as a VP for academics and PR. So yeah, a lot of opportunities you can explore, a lot of things you can do. But yes, everything is so inclusive, especially for me, what I feel. And yeah.
All right, thank you. So let me make a comment because there is a question about the certificate, the capstone projects for self-funded. But let me answer this before I go to Dami because I see that your hand is up. So when a student does not have the sponsorship from their organization, they need to do the capstone anyway. So this is something that you need to take into account as you are considering an application to the program, that you will need to do a project with your company. So that's a conversation that as an accepted student, you will need to get started. We can provide you with some information, with some context, with what are the expectations of the capstone in terms of the access that you will need, the kind of information and data, and roughly what you will get at the end, so that you can have those conversations with the leadership of the organization and then find an appropriate, a suitable project. The way I want self-funded students to think about this is, think about the capstone like an opportunity for you to demonstrate to your organization what you learned and to create some value for them. So this is an opportunity to showcase what you are doing, and we will try to support you to frame that conversation with your leadership. So let me go to Dami.
Hi, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, great. So my question is actually twofold. One for you, Ignacio, the second one for Jay. So I'm a little interested in hearing about the graduate certificate program. I'm actually interested in the master's, but it seems like there's a path from graduate certificate to master's. But what I want to know is, you made some comparisons to programs like the PMP, or some parallels. I'm a little curious, is this graduate certificate program where you get PDUs, or do you get sort of college credits similar to the master's? And I'm asking because I work for a company that only reimburses college eligible credits. So that's for part one of the question. Part two of the question is really more tailored to sort of an application strategy. Like, I know the master is highly competitive, but I'm really interested in hearing what is the feasibility of starting out in the graduate certificate if the master's application turns out that it's not a fit at this time, and then a candidate decides, hey, I'm going to start with the graduate certificate and then pivot to the master's. Or what does that look like in terms of application, application timeline, process, requirements, and all that? So that's a mouthful, but let me pause here to get a reaction.
Love it. All right, so let me go to your first question. The answer is actually quite simple, Dami. The graduate certificate gives graduate credits. So these are not professional units. It is not continuous development unit. These are full-on graduate level credits.
Okay.
That's what allows the graduate, the certificate students, if accepted, to take those credits and allocate them to the master's, towards the master's degree.
Gotcha.
Right? So that's question number one. Now, people keep calling it transition. It is very difficult to not think about it as a transition, but it is not a transition. People who are certificate students who want to pursue the master's program need to apply to the master's program. The requirements are different for the certificate insofar as they are not as many, but it is not easier. We do not have a lower quality bar for the certificate students because they will work on the same class or at the same level, correct? So what makes it a little bit easier is the fact that instead of having 3 recommendation letters, we're asking only for 1. Instead of having a bit of a more detailed plan about what do people expect to do upon graduation, we don't really are asking for that for the certificate students. So it's more of a completing more requirements for the master's application rather than it being harder. So let me stop there and now go to Jay. So Jay, how was that for you?
So definitely I do not regret starting as a certificate student, because it's been a while since I graduated from my bachelor, undergrad, and then coming back to school, it was different yet again. So starting with the core, which was very demanding for me, that was actually the right choice, working full-time at the same time. When I decided to go for the master's application was actually at the end of the first semester. I really loved the topic and I wanted to do more, as my cohorts are talking about, I'm gonna take system dynamics next semester and things like that. I wanted to pursue that as well. So I started early, at the end of the first semester, and one recommendation is that really try to reflect what you learned from the first semester, and then maybe include those ideas in your maybe application. That's what I exactly did, and hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. So, Jay and Ignacio, I think I'll connect with both of you separately on LinkedIn and just, reach out. But I appreciate the opportunity.
Sure
Have a
thing.
great day.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Dami. Remember, if people have more questions and you want to participate, just raise your hand and I will give you the word. So for the panel, let me go to something else. So Saurabh, you are from a company that has participated with SDM for a while. So how do you see the alignment of the certificate in terms of the rest of the company's strategy? Like, how do you perceive that value? Because there are going to be people in the group here who are trying to build that argument. Like, okay, so how do I convince my organization to make that investment?
Yep. I'd like to start with the complexity of the system that we are working on right now. It's very different from what we have worked for, let's say, last 185 years and so on. So when the complexity of the system increases, the approach that we take in order to solve those complexities as well as work on those product or the program level things, we need to have that way of system thinking. We need to have that way of convincing people like, okay, the systems are going to get complex, and then we need to have some more kind of competency within Duo so that we can kind of have a common conversations within each other. So it's been a journey for us, especially for last 5-6 years, where we have like cohorts every year coming to MIT as well as Caltech, and then they are kind of gaining that knowledge or the competency of systems thinking. So we want to have that technical leadership, or the people in the leadership basically have the way of system thinking, and then finally take the approach of systems engineering in order to mm, deliver the solutions that we develop for the customers that we have. So it's very well aligns with what we do. It's very well aligns with what I do, and especially for the system of systems or the enterprise level thinking that we have to do. So yeah, I think I hope that I answered it.
We'll find out. Thank you.
Okay.
What about you, Pablo? So how has that, how do you leverage what you're learning in class looking like on the company? Does it make sense that you learn something on Monday and you use it on your work on Tuesday, or how is that for you?
Yeah, well, I was just typing that answer on the chat, but I think it's easier for me to talk about it. Well, for me, it's different because at the same time that I started this course, I was transitioning from one company to another. I was originally in Chevron, now I'm BP, and I'm transitioning from value chain optimization to supply chain. So there are a lot of transitions in my life going on at the same time. However, I'm more aware of the systems thinking that this course requires. So starting in a new company, it really helps me to understand how this area is working, how is this connected to something else, my key stakeholders, what is within the context, what is not, the boundaries of my system, like my scope. So yeah, it's very interesting how you start seeing those concepts you see in class and then unconsciously starting to apply them. Like I'm not really doing any modeling right now in my current position, at this point at least. But yes, I think the main concepts are very interesting and very helpful to approach life in a different way.
All right. So nobody has asked, but let me bring up something else. How did you prepare for your applications? Like how did you talk to people about recommendation letters? Do you have any tips? Do you have any insights that you would like to give the audience?
For the application, I'll start with getting to know more about this program, getting to know more about what you do and how things align with each other. So you have to show the value as well as you have to show what you are going to gain out of the system as well as what you are going to give to the cohort that we have. So the statements that you write, especially the SOP, it has to align pretty much well with what you intend to learn as well as what you want to give back to the cohort. And then about the recommendations, I'll say it starts very early. So before even the application deadlines are there, try to connect with the people with whom you are going to get the recommendations. And in my case, I got one from my professor at my undergrad, then one was from my company, and so on. So it happens like you can get multiple of them, keep one as a backup as well, so that in case if someone has some emergency and then they are not able to submit those or make those submissions of the recommendations, then you have someone in backup. So connect with them, get their alignment, get them to know about what your intent is from getting out of this program, and start early. Yeah.
I
I'm gonna.
think,
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, I'm gonna just quickly add on to the start early because, like, for me, convincing my employer that this is a very good opportunity, how I can better myself. But then for me to make them understand the systems thinking, that perspective took a little while because they don't have a lot of time. And for me to fully express like how this program can change my role here. So yeah, maybe start early is like what I want to emphasize as well.
I fully agree with them. I think you need to be aware of what you want to accomplish in the next years. You don't have to have like a perfect plan, but it has to make sense for you to have this type of courses in your curriculum, in your life, seeing all these opportunities, the course itself, the networking. Do you find value? How do you want to explore this? How you want to contribute to this community? And prepare your curriculum because you are applying with a cohort, which everybody is very talented, and I say it in a humble way, but everyone is very impressive. Be prepared for the imposter syndrome. It's something very natural. So yeah, I think those are kind of pre-works you need to do before you start the application. If possible, approach somebody who's in your company or not, who's taken this type of courses before, so they can give you like a better insight of how they are applying in their career. And yeah, people like Ignacio, Naomi, and Joan are very open to talk. So yes, they are very, very helpful.
One more thing to the panel. So we have been talking about the remote part of the program, but I would like to get your insight about the in-person part of the certificate program. So Pablo, Sauraf, you have experienced your first in-person week in August. So if you can tell us a little bit more about that. And Jay, you actually went through the first year already. So you know what's coming for Pablo and Sauraf in January, as well as what the final presentations are like. So without spoiling anything, so how was that experience for you all?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Pablo.
Thank you. For me, it was overwhelming. I was there with my significant other because that's something very nice about this first week, that there are some activities like open for families. It was impressive. It was overwhelmed. It was, and I really mean it. It was like a dream coming true because I was not expecting in my life to be studying in an institution such as MIT. So not just looking at the pictures, but being actually at the dome in class with this technology, with this cohort, with this staff, with this faculty. It's impressive. It's exhausting because there's a lot of activities going on at the same time. So there's a lot to digest, but it's very nice. You make very strong links with people there. There are a lot of social activities which really strengthens networking. So it wasn't something that I was really expecting, but it was great. I really felt like a very, very nice week.
Yeah, it was same for me. To start with, it was so intense and it was so well organized. So the people who are organizing it takes care of this, like you are there only for 1 week, and then in that 1 week, how you can make most use of the time you are there, getting to know the cohorts, getting to know the city, getting to know MIT, and getting to know about the course and the cohorts that you are working with, so that further down the line, when you start working with someone on some of the assignment, you have that background knowledge. Okay, so I know this person. It's very easy for me to reach out to them, connect with them, feel free, kind of feel included in the discussions. So a lot of activities, a lot of events, very well organized, and a lot of opportunity for you to learn and get to know more and more people.
Yeah, adding on to that, I really love the in-person weeks. I mean, I made one of my best friend in this program who lives in Italy, Lorenzo. He always sleeps at my place when he actually visits MIT. It's very well organized. There's a lot of interesting program that helps you network with all the other folks. I was not really good at networking before this program. Now I'm decent, I want to say, maybe. But yeah, I definitely enjoy the program, especially the in-person week. I cannot. Yes.
Go ahead, Dave.
So yeah, I couldn't really speak about like being remote and visiting because I'm living here in Boston, but I definitely look forward all my friends visiting Boston back and enjoy the in-person week. Yeah.
All right. So I think we have reached the chat question plateau at this point. I don't really see anything else coming up, nothing new. So any final words of wisdom, final recommendations from Pablo, Jay, Saurabh before I go to the last couple of slides and we can call it a day.
Dare to challenge yourself. It's going to be totally worth it. You really need to take a commitment with your time, with your work, with your significant others, but it's worth it. It's very rewarding. Just having the experience of being at this type of institutions on these very unique programs between engineering and management. It's great, but you also need to be aware of what do you want to do next.
Same from my side, like be mentally prepared before you apply for it. It's going to be intense. It's going to take a lot of efforts from your side. So be prepared, apply for it, and then for all of us, so it's a mid-career program, and then whenever we think like, okay, now what? So if you are at that stage, like you want to upskill yourself, if you are at that stage where you want to grow some new competency within you, so I'll suggest it's going to be one of the best choice for you.
All right. Let me then move. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so from my side, there are essentially four things that I want to highlight about what makes the certificate program very special. One of them is the ability that the program allows you to immediately put what you are learning in the classroom back to work. And that's not only, oh, I did this homework and I am going to do something or replicate something. It is also the people that you're meeting are people that you can reach out to, and with a little bit of luck, they are going to tell you something that's valuable, that's insightful, that then you can use back with your professional network at your employer. Another thing that I want to highlight is the core. The basic course that lasts 9 months and that you would be taking together with master students is really the flagship class that we have within the SDM program, and that's to the benefit of everybody. The capstone is one of the main avenues through which organizations see a return on investment, because you would be working together with a team of other employees on a dedicated company project, still under MIT supervision. And that's the clearest possible thing for those 10 weeks. And we would work together with you to find a project and frame it so that it's the best possible learning experience for you. And the final one is the community. Pablo, Jay, and Saurabh, they have made that point time and again. We are a very intensive program, also, among other things, with the purpose of bringing people together. And those are relationships that ought to go beyond the year that the graduate certificate lasts. So with that, I am going to close it. So I'm sticking around for a few more minutes. However, if we can stop the recording, just in case anybody has any other questions. But thank you, everybody, for being here. Let us know if you have any questions. Reach out to us, and hopefully we'll see some of you again. And thank you, Pablo, Jay, and Saurabh for being here.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Ignacio, for inviting us.
Thank you.
All right. Jaron, I think we can close it.
I think when I close it, I end the meeting, and so as long as you're good with that, I'll go ahead and wrap it up, and thank you, everybody that joined.
All right, let's go ahead then. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.